record it to the cloud. Hopefully that's a good thing. Okay. So welcome to our client community Zoom. Just getting started here. Sharing my screen for a second. We're going to be talking about habits. And sorry, we got started and forgot to record, so we're just recording from here on out. So I wanted to kind of eliminate the concept of bad versus good. There's habits that either serve or they don't serve. And it looks like, hey, Michael, go ahead and pop off mute. Do you have something you want to add?
No, I'm just trying to figure everything out on this thing.
Oh,
Sorry.
got it. No problem. Okay, so obviously there's good habits versus bad habits, but I want you to eliminate that. What serves, what doesn't serve. So number one, identify the habit. So if you have a habit in your life, identify it. Write it down. What is it? And step two, evaluate that habit. So decide, does this actually serve me? Is this actually serving me and getting me move forward in where I want to be? Or is this actually a disservice? And that feeling of anger, you know how I talked about feeling angry about falling into an old habit? That's actually a sign to you. When you feel anger, that usually means there's something you need to cut out of your life or destroy. And it might be that habit. That need to just, you know what, I need to get rid of this bad habit. And then step three, you can choose. Do I want to reinforce that habit? Is that a habit serving me, or do I want to replace the habit? You don't really have any other options. You have to either replace or reinforce. You can't just get rid of it. You actually need to replace it. And I love this quote by Zig Ziglar. He says, all bad habits start slowly and gradually. And before you know you have the habit has you. And that's not just bad habits, actually. It's all habits. So there are 3 R's to create or destroy a habit. And I said or destroy because if you're feeling angry about a particular habit that you keep doing, it might be time to destroy that out of your life. So number 1, a reminder. And I did it, the 3 R's, just so it's easy to remember, but a reminder means like a trigger or a cue. So think of the habits you have in your life. Like, let's say we all brush our teeth, right? I assume. And so we usually have a trigger for that. Like you put on your pajamas and you brush your teeth. Like you're getting ready for bed and you pair that all together to go to bed. There's other triggers depending on, good or bad habits. Some people, they wake up in the morning and that's a trigger right away to go work out. And that's a really good habit to have, to go and get some exercise, right? There's triggers that are negative triggers. For me, a negative trigger is a messy kitchen, late at night, alone. Those 3 combination is bad for me. That's a trigger for eating. So if you start noticing, and actually, this habit process and learning to manage your habits, it's a process of growth. So please, don't feel like because you struggled and you fell back into your old pattern that it's hopeless. It's never hopeless. You have complete control to manage your habits. So there's a trigger, there's going to be a response. And so you remind, you respond. What's the routine and the response that you do? And then it falls right into reward. And there's always a reward with your habits, whether or not it's a bad habit or a good habit. So figuring out, like if you have a negative habit loop going on, figure out the trigger, but it also is valuable to figure out that reward. Why do you keep going back to it? It's serving a purpose. It may not be serving a very good purpose, but it's serving a purpose. So figure out what that purpose is, and you have to figure out a way to patch the gap, right? To take the trigger, replace the routine, and get a reward at the end that's going to be valuable, right? And you might need to have something, either an extrinsic motivator or an intrinsic motivator. We'll get into that in a second. Just a second. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And that is true. We create who we are by the tiny little choices we make every single day. And so I actually created a document, and I can share this with you guys on the Facebook page. I'm more than happy to. It's really, honestly, no big deal. But it is a habit manager, and I'm going to show you what that looks like over here. It's basically just a piece of paper, like nothing big. But basically it has a spot where you can write down the habit. What is the habit? Is it like maybe it's a habit you want to create, or maybe it's a habit you want to destroy. Either way, write down the habit. How does it serve you? Or how does it not serve you? What's the reminder or what's the cue? What's your response? And what's the reward you get out of it? So here's a negative habit loop I used to have that I sometimes fall back into, because it's easy to go back into those old habits, but it doesn't mean it's the end. You can keep, restarting that good cue trigger response thing. But you basically take it, like mine was the messy kitchen, the late at night, exhausting day. I'm alone in the kitchen. There's food out. I'm cleaning up. That's an eating trigger for me. And it's always been an eating trigger for me. So that was the habit, was eat. And what was my reward for that? A feeling of relaxing and letting go. So I wanted the reward. I wanted to feel relaxed and I wanted to let go. And my pattern for that was it was not serving my purposes in the long run. It was serving me in the very short term, but then I was always regretting it. I felt sick. I didn't feel good. I didn't sleep well. My health was going downhill. So how do I replace that habit? Well, I still had the trigger, right? The trigger's not going away. So I need to change the response. I need to change the routine to get the reward I wanted. Well, what did I really want? I wanted to rest. I wanted to relax. I wanted to let go. So when I have a messy kitchen late at night, do you know what I do? I leave it. I leave the mess. I let go. And I go and I can do one of two things. One is a nice hot shower, feels so good, or a hot tub. Or I'll just go do a little like Netflix, watch some show, whatever, just for a half hour. So that I feel like I've relaxed and I've let go. And that has been a great tool. So back to here. So we've got, how does it serve? Remind, response, reward, replace, or reinforce. Then there's lots of categories that we can think about our habits. We can categorize them. We've got habits of fueling. How do we fuel our body? How do we feed? How do we eat? Habits of water. How do we get our water intake? Habits of motion, sleep, and thought. Those habits of thought, those are actually very powerful. If you can get into an optimistic thought loop where certain triggers actually create a different thought pattern, that does take a little bit more cognitive, like you do have to think about how you're responding mentally, and maybe even ask for help with that, but it makes a big difference. Have you ever heard of finding the silver lining in the cloud? Going into that pattern of practicing finding the silver lining every single time, it creates an optimistic thought loop, and it will improve your well-being. It'll improve your stress. It'll improve your health. So lots of different things we can go into. So what are the 3 starter habits of Optavia? I call them the starter habits because this is what we boil it down. When we have, as a coach, when I've got a client coming to me, and this is how it was for me, you can see I'm there, I'm pictured right here. My before and after picture, I lost 65 pounds 3 years ago. But when you come to it originally, you've got weight to lose, or maybe you just want to have energy, you feel terrible, whatever it is that you're facing, we have patterns. And the patterns, the habits that we establish at the very beginning when you become a client are powerful, and we build on that. So number 1, 6 times a day, it doesn't matter what program you do, that is a habit you'll do the rest of your life. You will fuel your body 6 times a day. And what I love is that we have super simple options that just make it easy, grab and go. You got your macros covered, you got your micros covered, everything's in balance, you're ready to move through. Number 2, drinking 64 or more ounces of water a day. A very easy way to figure out how much water you should be having is divide your body weight in half, and that's your ounces. So, for me, 80 ounces is what I aim for every single day. And then number 3, cook a lean and green. So that's something we get to practice again and again and again. And particularly if you're on a 5-in-1, which I know many of you are, you're really focusing in on these 3 main habits. And now my question for us is, let's apply these habits to the habit manager that I showed you before. Number 1, let's evaluate. Do these habits serve? Yes. And that's why I pictured these pictures here on the right. And these are all people I know personally. Of course, it's myself, and then Anna Lee and Dixie, and who do I hear? Mrs. Kevin. Oh no, I went forward. Okay, well, I went forward. That was Jody Genesee. Anyhow, so do they serve us? Absolutely, they do. Now we're going to go from there and we're going to build on it. So what if we were to build on just that basic habit of fueling every single 2.5 to 3 hours all day long? So we're having a 7 a.m., a 10 a.m., a 1 p.m., a 4 p.m., a 7 p.m., a 10 p.m. And those are flexible times. I just kind of threw those out as just a general blah. But of course, there's flexibility there. But what if we were to just take that and build an incredible habit structure that will create health for a lifetime? And I put fuelings for all of them. Not that they're always Optavia fuelings, but I just put them all because no matter what you do, you're fueling your body in some way, some fashion. That's just a general term. So we've got, what if we did a 16.9 ounces of water? You know those water bottles? Seriously, those aren't that big. They're not a big deal. What if you just had one of those before every fueling? What if you just made it a rule that you're going to drink one of those water bottles before you eat? And you don't have to do it all at once, but sometime between the fuelings. And that's actually one of the habits that I've instituted for a long, long time. And I guarantee my water every day. I don't have to think about it because I know I have a trigger going on. So when I eat my fueling, I fill my water bottle. And then that water bottle has to be gone before my next fueling. So if I want to eat and I still have a water bottle, I chug it because I've got to get my water in, and that's the pattern. Now let's add to that. What if every time we ate, we just did 5 minutes of motion? And when I say motion, it could be anything. Maybe you go for a 5-minute walk. Maybe you spend a few minutes maybe you do 10 push-ups or girl push-ups like I do, and maybe some little arm things, and maybe a jumping jack or 2 for 5 minutes. Look at how that builds. 5 minutes, 6 times a day, that's a 30-minute workout. But it's actually more powerful, way more powerful in raising your basal metabolic rate than a 30-minute workout right at the beginning of the day and then being sedentary all day long. But it's only 5 minutes. Who can't do 5 minutes, right? One little thing. And what if after we did 5 minutes of motion, we just took 2 minutes and breathed deeply? Just laid there, close your eyes, and breathe for 2 minutes. 2 minutes for most people, it's not the end of the world, right? And here we can see we've just nailed our fueling, our eating. We've nailed our water. We've nailed our motion and our stress. We're in a good fat burn. Our basal metabolic rate is high. We're burning fat. We're lean. We're getting the energy we need. We have the water we need. We're getting the oxygen we need. And that's just a start. There's so many other habit loops we could create, but this is just an example of a way you could say to yourself, well, what could I do? What could I do taking just the basic bare bones of my Optavia fuelings? I know I'm going to be eating 6 times a day. What could I do to make this a trigger that just is a habit loop that will always happen? And what will that mean to me in the long run? So now's the time for interaction, folks. I just threw out a few ideas here, but I just thought we could go through topic by topic. But healthy sleep. When I say set an alarm, I actually mean set an alarm at night. I actually have to do this for myself, but I set an alarm on my phone that says, it's 10 p.m. Get ready for bed and go to sleep. And I have to obey it, but then I do. Then I get the sleep I need because I set an alarm. I gave myself a trigger. And when that trigger goes off, I shut down what I'm doing. I go upstairs and I start that process of bedtime.
The night shift feature that's on Apple's iPhones is amazing. That's helped me be able to wind down, just literally the light, and it's getting more proven with college football programs and baseball programs that are establishing, glasses and stuff or dimming effects on electronics that we're surrounded by all the time. So I think about 6:30, 7 o'clock, I typically put my stuff to where it already dims down quite a bit. And
oh, smart.
I have to kind of put myself to sleep because I'm so fueled up like crazy. So it actually helps me kind of wind down.
That's a great tip. And it's called night shift?
Yeah, it's night shift. Aubrey, you were shaking your head there. That's kind of what you've seen too, right? The night shift.
That's awesome. That's perfect, you guys. Yeah, dimming down your lights. And actually, that'll help your kids too. I mean, how many times have you been like, I don't know, maybe I'm alone in this, but honestly, my teenagers are still up. And I'm like, get to bed, you guys, get to bed. Well, it's bright, it's light, the computers are on, things are on. Well, if you just go around your house and you just shut the lights off, kids go to bed. Yeah, game over. Lights are going off. Good night, and then people just go to bed. Here's a nice one, having a conversation with your spouse, with your partner, with your roommate. Take the time at the end of the day to kind of cool off and have a conversation. Just relax and chat. Brushing teeth is a trigger for sleep. I mean, there's lots of triggers, but we don't have to just talk about triggers. I'd love for people to just hop off mute if you have something you want to add. Any other ideas for healthy sleep? Okay, I'm going to move on because we're almost out of time here. Healthy motion. Now, here's a trigger that I've done, and I hope it's helpful to you guys, but going to the store. Every time I go to the store, and I drive like a huge Ford Transit, I have 7 kids. And honestly, when I go to the store, I'm like, I'm going to park this baby far, far away. Every time I'm parking, my initial response, my old habit is I'm going to the store. I need to find a close parking spot. But now I'm breaking that by saying, I'm just going to drive right on over here and just park far away and I'll get a few extra steps. Habit loops. Here's one that a good friend of mine, Vanessa, shared with me. What if every time you go to your pantry to open it, does anyone go to your pantry and like, you want to eat snacks or something? Yes! Aubrey, I can see. So this is a great idea, and I love this from Vanessa Shaman. She's phenomenal. But she said, take a picture of your, like where you want to be, your goal, whatever it is, like your visual of your why, and just post it on your pantry door. And that can be a trigger in your mind that when you go to the pantry and you see that why, that you've got to go do 5 minutes of a walk, or you could do 10 push-ups and 10 jumping jacks or something where it triggers an act of motion.
Me and Tiff were joking. We were going to lock her out of her kitchen.
Seriously, there's times when I'm like, just put a padlock on the fridge because it's a habit. Before I started, I would be like, why am I standing here with the fridge open? Not hungry, just doing it. And there was a bag, my kids had left a bag of chips open on the table, and I walked by and like reached for it, and I'm like, what are you doing? Stop. Just because it's there, it's going to go in my mouth. Yeah.
It's so true. And who has this habit loop of like picking up your kids' food? Like they're done eating, everyone left the dinner table, and you're all, oh, this was such a good soup. I know I shouldn't eat it, but it's so dang good, right?
Yeah.
Old habit. So the new habit has to be, this goes in the trash or in a Tupperware for tomorrow for my kids. You have to figure out your new habit loops. But yeah, it is so hard. And writing them down is so valuable. I'm going to just keep kind of pumping through here. Healthy fueling, weekly check-in with your coach. Oh my goodness. That is a habit loop you've got to keep. Check in with your coach. If you are on here and you haven't checked in with your coach, check in with your coach. I can't stress it enough. There is a certain magical power that happens when you talk with somebody like your health coach about your journey. When you do that, everything goes up. your willpower goes up, your ability to make good choices goes up, your ideas for making good choices, your desire to make good choices, it all goes up. Food journal. Go to the grocery store and buy veggies. Don't buy junk like sometimes I do. I know how it is. You buy the junk, your kids end up not eating it, and then you eat it because you feel bad that you spent the frickin' money on it. So winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. So I just wanted to kind of, I'm going to stop the share now. I'm going to open it up though, because I think a lot of you might be thinking of things yourself that like maybe you thought of a habit that you want help with, or maybe you have an idea of something that has been good for you to overcome an old habit.
I have one.
Yes, share.
Can I talk? Can you hear? I don't know how this works.
I can hear. Is that Alina?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, we can totally hear you.
Okay, so when I go to eat, and I know I'm going to make a wrong choice, or my mind wants to make a bad choice, right? Or it just wants a snack, or in between a meal or something, right? Mm-hmm. I have decided that I would have my veggie, like you were saying, right there in the fridge, and I would just tell myself, well, first I'll eat my celery sticks, and then I'll revisit if I really want that snack, you know. So I never, because it's, for me, saying, no, you can't have that is like, well, why not? It's just battle in this head all the time. But if I say, well, why don't you do this first and then think about that, you know, after you've had, you know, the celery. So it's just an automatic go-to, grab the celery stick or grab the cucumber chips or, you know, whatever veggie I have in the fridge or the glass of water. And while I'm eating that, then thinking, okay, so is that what I really want? Do I really want that handful of M&Ms sitting over there, you know, or I don't know. It's just kind of helped me to not have to say no, but to really take a moment and think about what I really want.
I love that. That gives you the chance to really stop, challenge something, and then choose what you really, really want. Yeah. And that is the hardest thing. You know what? I have a hard time with it too. Like it's the short-term versus the long-term consequence. And I always tell my kids, I'm like, sometimes there's a short-term consequence that I can let my kid have. That I'm like, you know what? You're going to suffer for that pretty shortly, you know, whatever it is. Like, yep. But there's some things that your kids choose that you as a parent, you can see into the future and you say, I know that they're not going to suffer for this for a very long time, but I don't want them to have to suffer for this. So I'm going to help them by giving a consequence that's a little bit closer, right? Yeah. So sometimes it helps for us to recognize that too and taking that minute to say, yes, I want the immediate enjoyment, but what could I do to pause and give me time to think about it? I like that, Alina. Yeah. Yeah. Don't say no. Give yourself an option.
I have a good habit that I've found that I've started doing about a month ago. You know, when you go into the place and they got the little candy tray, I caught myself almost grabbing it and I already unwrapped it almost to my mouth, and I was, whoa, what am I doing? You know. Yeah. And so if I know those places have it there, and I'm talking because I'm a nervous talker sometimes, so I grab stuff. I've been starting to just carry a handful of pistachios in there with me if I know that's in there, and so I'm already like focused on my pistachios, so I'm not even thinking about it. And so the few times I've been around a couple of those places that I go to, it's not on my head or I'm not grabbing for it. So I wanted to change it up because I caught myself and I was like, oh, you're gonna mess up one time.
And it was just like an old habit. It wasn't even something you were thinking about, but just giving
those habits are like those habits. It takes 21 days to form a habit, you know, give or take for some folks. Yeah. And so don't get discouraged. I mean, you got to really try to hammer it out for 21, and then after that, it's just like easy peasy.
Yeah, it's so true, Billy. Thanks so much for sharing that. And actually, I think there was just a recent study done that it takes even longer than 21 days for some people. 66 is what they said, 3 months. So can you imagine how hard it would be if you have a negative habit that's not serving you, how hard it is to overcome? And what we talk about is instead of overcoming the habit, let's replace the habit. So replace the routine. Any other ideas out there that have really helped or served you? Awesome. You guys, it's already 5 minutes over, and I want to respect your time. But thank you so much for jumping on. And you guys, I love this crew. You're amazing, and I love to hear your thoughts and learn from you. And so we'll see you next week. And if you are a coach, or if you would like, you can stay on. We're going to be doing coach training at 7:00, I believe. And I could be wrong about that, actually. So if you're a coach, stay on. And if not, then you can stay on too. We'd love to have you on. It'd be delightful. I'm just trying to think.
How do you text thank you? Somebody just text something.
Oh,
Share.
yeah. So if you go down at the bottom, there's a little chat. I'm going to go stop